Sam. Getting everybody hot up. You are in for a real treat. Your headliner this evening, she's absolutely amazing. I've worked with her throughout this whole pandemic. She's finishing up a upstate, downstate, middle state, south state, New York tour. You're gonna love her. She's been with that fan from America's Got Talent, Last Comic Standing. So put those hands together and make some noise and give it up for Angela. Hey!
So anyways, I am on tour right now, and I'm back in Albany. Let's give it up for Albany, everybody. So I actually am from Saratoga, but I'm familiar with the upstate area. And one thing I have to say about upstate is that we have the best accent. Can anybody tell my accent on me? What makes it different? Does anybody know what the upstate New York accent is? Nobody? Oh, come on, Ralph. You were from this area for a while. What's the upstate accent?
Boston.
No! What kind of answer is that? We accentuate our vowels. So I grew up in upstate, and I also have my dad who's from upstate, and he convinced me that everybody in upstate New York speaks perfect English. So I never thought that I had a problem with my accent until I went to college in the Midwest. And I embarrassed myself in front of the class because we were in a poetry class and we were talking about coffee. And apparently I say that word wrong. I say taffy, apparently. And my professor says, what are you talking about? I said, this poem is about coffee. And he says, you just said taffy. And everybody laughed at me. I didn't realize how bad my accent was until I filmed a promo on Instagram for one of my shows on tour. And I said, I'm coming to Pittsburgh, that was one of my stops, to perform comedy. And I didn't say comedy, I said camedy. And I'm just like, oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this, but it happens. So give it up for anybody here with an upstate accent. All right, who here is from Saratoga or is in this area because they want to do Saratoga things? Anybody? No one from Saratoga? Nobody here is into Saratoga stuff? Nobody. All right, well let me educate you. I'm from Saratoga. I think it's an amazing city. And if you go into Saratoga Springs, they're going to have a sign that says, Saratoga Springs, health, history, and horses. But there's a couple other things that Saratoga is known for, one of them being their natural spring water. And, it's fabulous, but you know what's so magical about the spring water is Saratoga Springs was very popular in the early 1900s because everybody was constipated. And that was the Disneyland type vacation, was to go and take a good poop and drink the natural water. So that's how my hometown became famous. They had to build the racetrack to cover up that shitty stigma that happened. There's another thing that Saratoga is very proud of. And whenever there's a city mentioned in a song, people like to brag about it. And here's a little trivia question. Does anybody know what famous song features Saratoga in the lyrics?
You're so big.
Yes! And Saratogians brag about it. Carly Simon has a song called You're So Vain. And there's a line in that song where she's singing about some guy that broke her heart or some ex or something. And the line is, you went up to Saratoga and your horse naturally won. And then this bastard went up to Nova Scotia because he has a private jet to just watch the total eclipse. So you know what he did? People are like, this guy's a jerk. I'm like, this bastard, that on a horse, won a ton of money and used that money just to see the total eclipse on a private jet. And he screwed over a bunch of Saratogians. That's what I always thought when I heard that lyric. And yet we brag about it that Carly Simon knows what Saratoga is. Now, we had Sam on before me. He's fabulous. He's from Philadelphia. And Saratogians love Philadelphians. But I hate to break it to you, Sam, we had a rivalry with Philadelphia and still kind of do. And no, it is not some old American Revolution thing. And I may get run out of upstate New York for bringing this up, but it is the feud between Saratoga and Philadelphia over the American Pie incident. Does anybody know what this is? Anybody hear about this? So Don McLean, who was the writer of the song Bye Bye Miss American Pie that's played way too often in department stores. You know those department store songs, or it was on some like 80s mixtape that, oh no, this is a 70s song, that your parents had, or CD. Anyways, Don McLean actually started writing lyrics and performing in Saratoga Springs. He was a regular at open mics at Cafe Lena. And then he used to go to this bar down on Caroline Street and write lyrics to songs and drink. So he just paid a lot of bar tabs there, apparently. But there was a feud where they thought that he wrote the lyrics to American Pie in that bar. So much so that they put a plaque in there saying, American Pie was written here. But oh no, that got debunked. They bragged about it before fact-checking. And we love horses here in Saratoga, and they went straight to the horse's mouth. And NPR interviewed Don McLean and said, where was American Pie written? Was it really in Saratoga? We need to set the record straight. NPR got involved, not Rolling Stone. And he said, no, it was a bar in Philadelphia. And then that's how all the feud started. And there's still that plaque in the Caroline Street bar. They will not get over it. But you know what's an even bigger deal is that, I can't remember the lead singer to Journey. He penned the lyrics to the song Faithfully. You know that stupid song that you slow dance to in high school when you had your first love, and it's this stupid song. He penned the lyrics in the back of SPAC. Why are we bragging about that? Because it's a terrible song and no one likes it. American Pie is a classic. One more thing I have to bring up is doing Zoom comedy has been great because I met all these amazing comics that went on before me. Everybody who came on, I met via Zoom. So give it up for Zoom comedy during the pandemic. And I got to meet a lot of comics that live not only in Philly, but also in New Jersey. And one thing everybody loves there is this convenience store called Wawa. Woo! People know what Wawa is. I don't get it. I'm like, it's just a convenience store. Why are you bragging on and on about it? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I should stop because I was bragging about how I was so excited to come back home because I can go to Stewart's again. Stewart's will always beat any Wawa. I'm going to say it right now. They've got pretzel on the Mohawk ice cream, and I stocked up on all of them. Put it in the freezer of my Airbnb. So that's how I'm partying hard when I get back tonight. All right. Anyways, not so fun adult things that have happened to me. I know we all had a terrible 2020, but my 2021 has been pretty terrible. Because my apartment flooded this week. Yes, thank you. This gentleman right here knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, my apartment flooded and my landlord didn't think it was a big problem. He's like, we'll put a couple of box fans in there and it will dry it out. I'm like, there's a puddle in my living room. It destroyed my router. You can buy another one. I'm like, you will be hearing from my insurance company. And I called my insurance company and found out I didn't purchase the flood insurance. And they're like, yes, you've been flushing down an extra $15 down the toilet every month. And yeah, your apartment flooded and now you can't use its insurance. I was like, oh, well, I guess I had to reread that policy again. But you know what policies are? They're like Apple agreements. You never read through those. Who reads through an insurance policy? You pay for it because they say you have to get it. But anyways, I had to salvage things from my apartment so they didn't get destroyed. And the most important thing was these shoes I'm wearing, because the sparkly shoes are a big deal for me when I record. These ladies in the back understand the shoes are important. All my documents, social security card, medical records, they can get destroyed in the flood. I'm saving the shoes. You know that scene in Lord of the Rings where Sam is drowning before Frodo saves him? That was me getting out of my apartment, and I had my bag of shoes over my head. So those were damage, and I still look fabulous coming out of a flooded apartment. I'm not looking forward to getting back to that, but I get that. And you know what comes with flooding? Not mold, but bugs comes with it. I saw a roach in my apartment, and I got so scared. I'm so terrified of roaches. Anybody here hate roaches? They're disgusting, and they don't belong. I'm like, oh, there's a roach roommate. Some people are like, oh, a roach, whatever, and kill it. And when I saw a roach in my apartment, it made me think of a really lifelong, important question that I want to ask to all of you. Do you ever just say to yourself, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? Let's see, I'm going to ask somebody. This gentleman right here. We all know who you are. Okay, Danny, I know. You came in to see me perform. He's a real fan. If you could have a superpower, Danny, what would it be?
Hide from this question.
To dodge questions, that's a good one. Let's go to these guys in the back. Grayson, what would your superhero power be?
Willpower.
Willpower? What? What was that? Oh, because he can't stop eating. Why is that a problem? That sounds fun to me. If I could have a superpower, all I want is little beams to come out of my fingers so that I can zap roaches. Yes, because you know, if you see a roach in your apartment, you don't care if somebody has super speed or can breathe underwater. You want somebody to get rid of that roach. And my superhero name is going to be the Roach Buster. Who cares about ghosts? They're not scary. You see a roach in your apartment, you're calling me, I'm going to be your new favorite superhero. Just pay me in coffee and food and we'll be on our way. I would be very, very happy. So what's else going on post-pandemic? I saw a lot of people get into relationships after the pandemic and go through a breakup, which is really sad. But you know what was even worse? During the pandemic breakups. Anybody have a during the pandemic breakup? Anybody here? No? No one? Well, I went through a breakup before COVID. And that was fun, right before the pandemic started. It was with a relationship I was in for 3 years. Anybody been in a long relationship like that where you're not happy but you're just still with the person because you're like, all right, let's just ride it out and see how this train wreck ends. It will probably end in a very expensive divorce and some unhappy kids, but let's push through it. I was with this guy for 3 years, and he had the audacity to have the conversation about getting engaged with me. Yeah, he even he talked about proposing to me within a few months. So Christmas comes around, and I get this giant box from him, ornately wrapped. So I'm thinking he maybe went on YouTube or Pinterest or looked at a fun idea, like, you know, those box within a box within a box things, and keep unwrapping them, and the ring is there. He was so incredibly lazy, there's no way he would have had the effort to do that. So I unwrap all the wrapping paper, and I open it up. Inside of it was a giant, fluffy, pink grandma robe with pictures of cats all over it. And I don't even like cats. I'm allergic to them. No offense to the cat people here. But after 3 years of putting up with your nonsense and you not getting a job and living with your parents, I get a bathrobe for Christmas. The women in the audience, I have to ask you, would you be offended, gentlemen too, if you were in a long-term relationship and you get a bathrobe for Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You know what that means, gentlemen? If you are considering getting a bathrobe for your lady or for your partner, here's what it is. It's saying to them, you're fat and disgusting, so keep yourself covered all the time. That's a gift you get to your wife after 10 years of marriage when you run into Target the night before her birthday or before Christmas, whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I forgot to get something. Let's see something that we're, oh, here's this robe. I hope she likes it. By then, you're buying yourself a one-way ticket to the couch for the next month. This, you know what I'm talking about. So put some effort into it. Go on like Etsy or something, you know, put in some effort and stop giving like the big corporations the money. So anyway, situation where I opened up the gift and I looked at him, I'm like, really, a bathrobe? And he goes to me and he's like, Angela, we need to have a serious conversation. And I was like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And he's like, we need to break up. And I was like, where did that come from? You told me 2 weeks ago you were going to propose to me. And he looks me dead in the eye and says, we're too different because you like to do things. I still don't know what he meant by that, but I kicked him out of my apartment and threw the bathrobe after him because he's going to need it because he's going to be homeless. No, he went running home to his parents' house, I know that. But you know what's even funnier is, you know they say that there's a stereotype of women who cry into cartons of ice cream when they get dumped and gain 100 pounds. And I made sure to get extra hot after he dumped me, so that's why I look the way I do now. And after going through a breakup, you know what I did is I wanted to rebrand myself. I'm like, okay, well what's important to me in life besides myself and doing comedy is I'm a very proud auntie. I don't have kids, but I have 3 beautiful nieces and a handsome little nephew. And I realized I want to be a hot aunt. And when people rebrand themselves, they want to compare themselves to a fictional character. And I think there aren't too many fictional aunts out there. And I realized I want to be like Aunt May in the Spider-Man series. Not the one in the comics, or where she's 80 years old, or the old movies where Tobey Maguire was a 40-year-old high school student. I'm talking Aunt May in the reboot with Tom Holland, where she's so hot that she gave Tony Stark a boner. I remember seeing that scene and I thought, that's it, that's how I'm going to get an old millionaire who's going to pay for my comedy tour. Now, Bill Gates got divorced, maybe he'll give me a chance. No, I don't want to deal with that. There's probably too many legal issues with that. But you know what's fun about having the hot aunt persona is I'm going around on tour and I'm meeting all these stand-up comedians that I met on Zoom, and I would perform the hot aunt joke, and I'm like, they're going to meet me and be like, yeah, she really is a hot aunt. And when people meet me, what they say is, you know, you're so much more fun in person and make everything fun. You remind me of Linda from Bob's Burgers. Not really what I was looking for, but she said it was fun. I guess I'll go with it. It's interesting how we talk about breakups because women get cracked on all the time with how they handle breakups. Have you ever seen what happens to a guy when he goes through a breakup? I'm going to ask the audience, any gentleman out here who wants to volunteer information, even people up there. When you go through a breakup, what do you do? Cry every day. Anybody else? What happens to a guy when he gets dumped? How does he cope with it? What do you guys do? What'd you say? Oh my gosh. You're terrible. No, that's wrong. They start dressing like a grandpa. Have you ever seen what happens to a man's fashion sense? Here's what happens. It's a slippery slope. They get dumped and they break up with their girlfriend and claim they get dumped. And they go home to their parents' house and they cry because that girl was so mean to them and their mom feels bad for them and she cooks all their favorite meals and he gains a ton of weight. And then he realizes he has to get his act together and get a real job. So he realizes he doesn't have real clothes for interviews. So you know what he does? He's too cheap to go shopping, and he goes shopping in his dad's closet. It all starts with he's like, oh, I don't have a button-down shirt. I'll just borrow one from my dad. And then they're like, oh, I don't have pants. I'll borrow them from my dad. Oh, he's fatter than me. I'm going to put a belt on. I don't have a suit jacket. And then you put it on. And then they go into the back of their dad's closet, and you know how Indiana Jones would like go through the cave and like find all these different artifacts in the back of the closet on the top shelf? They find a Panama hat, and they put it on. Boom, grandpa outfit. And you know what happens is they subconsciously think, well, my dad got my mom at one point, so I'm just going to start dressing like him. So if you see your gentleman friends dressing like grandpa it floods your Instagram feed because it floods mine. Oh, wow. Wow. There's so much going on. But you know, one of the other things is, when I was driving down here and I was on the Northway, I got stuck in some traffic. Anybody else get stuck in Albany rush hour traffic? It's the worst. Any rush hour traffic's terrible. I have a little game that I play when I'm stuck in traffic. You want to know what my traffic game is? It's called Judge People by Their Bumper Stickers and their license plates. Some of these stickers are obnoxious. Stuck in traffic, there's a woman in front of me that has a bumper sticker that says Cat Mom. All right. And then in the lane next to me, there's a woman with a car that has a sticker that says Dog Grandma. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, what are these people? Then a car merges in front of me and the license plate said Turtle Dad. And that really annoyed me because I thought that was the stupidest thing I had ever heard. So I took the next exit, went to the pet store, and I adopted 2 bearded dragons. And now I have a license plate that says Mother of Dragons. And that joke was for all the Game of Thrones fans that I just found out who they were in here. So give it up for yourselves. You know, I kind of wanted to end this on a solemn note, and I hope I don't break down the room, but 2020 was a tough year for me. Everybody had a tough year. Everybody went through a lot of stuff. We're still going through the pandemic. And one of the things is I went through a very tragic loss. And it's okay to laugh at these jokes, because even in darkness and in death, we need to laugh. So trigger warning for anybody who doesn't like death or anything. I'm just going to talk about that a little bit. But I met a guy who was a very brilliant comedian. And, you know, we met at an open mic and we were talking, and I wasn't attracted to him at first because he dressed like a grandpa, but he was nice, so I figured that I would, you know, go out with him. So we went on a date, and the first date we went on, he shows up late, and he's like, oh, Angela, I'm so sorry that I'm late. I ate $6.66 of Taco Bell last night, and my butt feels like Sauron's eye. Going on a date with another comedian is really odd because you don't know if they're being honest or if they are telling a joke. So I was a little worried. I was like, do you need to reschedule? Are you doing okay? Like, he's like, no. He's like, I just looked through your Instagram and saw you were a Lord of the Rings fan, so I wrote you a Lord of the Rings joke. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I've never had a guy write a joke about his butt and Lord of the Rings for me on a first date. I just remember there was a girl sitting next to us, and she just gave me this look, don't give this guy a second date, please. No, we remained friends for a really long time, and then after a while I realized this was my person, and he was basically like a life partner to me. And so what had happened was we did a lot of comedy together, and we did shows, and we produced a lot of stuff together. And long story short, unfortunately, he passed away last year. So this is where it gets a little solemn, but what I wanted to joke about are, when anybody who goes through death, don't you notice that people say really inappropriate things to you, where they think that, you are naughty, you know what I'm talking about. They think they're being so supportive and helpful, but they're just making it worse. I made a joke about that, about my life partner on a Zoom show, and this girl messages me and says, Angela, I heard it in this voice. She goes, is your partner really dead? I just thought about it for a minute, and I messaged back and I said, I didn't know there was a difference between dead and really dead. But he's been deceased for over a year, so I'm going to have to go with, yes, he's really dead. The worst part was when I had to attend my friend's wedding a month after this incident. And I had to do this stupid thing called be happy for her. And she's like being a bridezilla, and all of a sudden she's like, it's the pandemic and only like a certain amount of people can come, and my dress isn't perfect, and I got stuck ironing out the dress, and I was just like, it's so, you know, you gotta be a little more grateful. Your fiance showed up alive today. I don't want to hear you complaining. And then I had to see all these happy couples at this wedding, and it got so bad that I ran off and cried about it. And checked in on me. She's like, Angela, what's wrong? I'm like, why are you so upset? I'm like, it's not fair. Why does everybody else's boyfriend get to stay alive? You don't want to be that person. Like, be the trashy drunk person at a wedding. Don't be the crying person in the bathroom. The worst thing that was said at this wedding was my friend's mom came up to me. And going to an event after you go through a death, like anybody who goes through a significant death, everybody knows what you went through. Your family, your friends of friends on Facebook, everybody knows. And they're like, send well wishes to so-and-so, they just went through a death. So everybody knows what I went through. And this woman came up to me, she's like, Angela, I'm so sorry for your loss. And she gives me a hug like this. You know, where there's like the awkward gap in between you. Remember that scene in Harry Potter where Draco Malfoy and Voldemort hug? It was at that awkward level. And then she looks at me and she says, I am so sorry for your loss, but you look really good. And proceeds to follow it up by, have you lost any weight recently? And I then said, well, Susan, nice to know I'm still hot. Maybe I should go through a tragic life event more often. You know, they say like there's those like 30 before 30 things, and like things that you experience before 30, and there's supposed to be things like backpacking over Europe, or getting your dream job, or getting married, and I want to start the tragic life events 30 before 30 because I think I've nailed it. I was in a car accident that almost killed me 4 years ago, then my life partner died, and then my apartment flooded. Let's live it out. Hear it for the tragic life event 30 before 30 by me. And nobody will be liking those Instagram posts. That's where people will be like, unfollow, mute, whatever you do. Angela's posts are really sad and depressing. I followed her page for comedy, not to hear about her dead partner. But anyways, I'm gonna wrap up on this. My late partner and I was a brilliant comedian. And we had a tour planned last year and COVID ruined it. So what I wanted to do was I put together a small tour this year because I wanted to do it in his honor. And I also wanted to touch on all the cities that we wanted to do on tour. So the most important ones, I did 2 shows in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I did another show in Northern Ohio. And even though he was from the Bronx, but he really wanted to do a show in upstate. So I made sure to make Albany a priority. This show almost didn't happen. It was very difficult to book in upstate New York, but I am not a quitter. No one is a quitter. I'll tell you why I'm not a quitter. I was raised by a Boston mom and a New York dad. There was no quitting in my house. So that's why I didn't quit. I could just sometimes hear one of my parents saying, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. And it'd be in my head, and I'm like, so I did it. And I put together this awesome show with everybody. What kept pushing me is because I knew he would have wanted me to do it. And I did it all in honor of him and for his memory. So I wanted to leave you with this tonight. No matter what you do in what life, whether it's stand-up comedy, whether you're a singer, dancer, any type of performer, try to do it for those who aren't with us anymore, those who can't do it, and try to carry on someone's legacy. And that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. Everybody that came out to perform with me, everybody in the audience, you're all helping live out his legacy and everything that he loved so much. If he loved comedy, it was brilliant. He's not here anymore, but I can do it for him. And everybody, this has been the last stop on my tour. I called this tour Baby Tour because it was very small in just a few cities. Albany has been amazing. This is the end of my tour. It's bittersweet, but it's been awesome. I just want you all to give it up for our amazing comics that came here tonight. But couldn't be here tonight, and they're all with us in spirit. Woo! Clap for those people we love. Give it up for our awesome bar staff tonight. That was awesome. Remember to thank our bar staff. And let's have a round of applause for our awesome audience because give it up for yourselves. Everybody, my name is Angela. This is my tour. This has been comedy in the capital in Albany, here at Lionheart Pub. Thank you so much for having us. I hope to do more shows here. And let's give it back to Ralph Anthony for the
Oh, man, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I feel like we've all lived through something tonight. It's very special. And